Darrell Issa is wielding his subpoena power for the first time as the new chairman of the Government Oversight and Reform Committee. His target, the now defunct Countrywide Financial. Issa wants to know which elected officials may have benefited from the company's VIP lending program known as Friends of Angelo, the former chairman. Now we're joined by Darrell Issa. He joins us from Capitol Hill. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on, Nora, and thanks for covering this important effort to try to get to the bottom of one of the most corrosive parts of the, if you will, the process that led to trillions of dollars of homeowner value being lost.
All right, so who on Capitol Hill got the sweetheart deals?
Well, it wasn't just Capitol Hill. Angelo Mazzillo's program was designed to go to over 150 people at Freddie and Fannie that were key decision makers. It went to people in the House, Senate, including lots of staff members. Very clearly, he wanted to be liked by people who could either write legislation or turn the other way as bad loans were being dumped onto the American people at Freddie and Fannie.
I know you've said that you have no plans to go after with this investigation current or former members of Congress. But then what's the point of this? What's the point in discovering whether who got these sweetheart deals? I mean, isn't it relevant if some lawmakers got these special deals from Countrywide?
Well, Nora, it may be relevant, but it's not my job. My job is not the Ethics Committee of the House or the Senate. My job is really to look at distortions in the process, in other words, government oversight and reform. If we need reform so the next time somebody pulls a Friends of Angelo, they either go to jail or in some other way can be stopped, that's my job. And getting to the bottom of this at a time when Angelo Mazzillo is sitting free with his millions tells me that I've got to find a way to make sure this doesn't happen again. We're going to do the discovery. If the Justice Department finds a crime, that's their decision. If the ethics committees find wrongdoing, that'll be theirs. But for the most part, the people we're talking about that were influenced, they've left government. Angelo Mazzillo's company is gone, but we still don't have a clear path to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Congressman, you chair a unique committee up on Capitol Hill. You have subpoena power, the ability to investigate. And I know you've talked about investigating everything from WikiLeaks to Afghan aid to Fannie Mae to the stimulus program, the bank bailout, all of it. Let me ask you about something you said on Rush Limbaugh's program in October of 2010. You said of President Obama, quote, he has been one of the most corrupt presidents in modern times. What did you mean?
Well, first of all, I walked back from that very quickly as a misstatement. The corrosive or corrupting influence of loose money in Washington delivered by a Congress that literally delivered it with the stimulus and the TARP with no strings, both to President Bush and President Obama, is something that's got to change. What I said or meant to say there, and very quickly made sure I made a public statement as to what I really meant, was that we've got to stop having loose money of the American peoples. We've got to nail it down to exact. We've got to end earmarks, whether they come from members of Congress or the administration. You know, right now, this CR, we were not able to get a study on the effects of malt liquor in combination with marijuana out of there, as though we need to study whether or not that's bad. There are so many things that are still being spent at a time when we're borrowing $1.6 trillion this year. You know, Nora, you've been following, everyone's been following Wisconsin. We're having a hard time taking 1 or 7% of the deficit out of the CR, and it's keeping us here day after day just trying to cut that small amount. We've got to stop thinking that the money belongs to Washington. We've got to get to where it belongs to the people, and we're overspending it.
With all due respect, I know that, and we all know that Congress is probably not going to meet their deadline again to get work done on last year's budget, and so there may be a government shutdown. But you're talking about cuts in menopause, research for menopause, condoms, malt liquor, video games. I mean, with all due respect, you well know that is not the cause of our budget problems and our budget deficit.
Well, Nora, you know, you and I have known each other about 12 years, and in those 12 years, we've gone from having a budget surplus to a deficit. So everything that's been added should be the first to be looked at. And yes, Social Security and Medicare are going to have to be tackled, and we've said we'll tackle it. Really tough tackling, including reducing benefits for future generations, increasing revenues. All of that's on the table. But right now, we have a CR in which people are still acting like it's business as usual, that these things need to simply be passed because we've been doing them. Yes, I'm only talking about millions there, but I'm also talking about $500 million a year when the president said he was going to freeze federal pay and then didn't freeze what are called step increases, which are automatic, which, by the way, everyone else would call pay increases. So I've got an amendment that saves $500 million in the current 7 months, but would save over $10 billion over 10 years. There are real dollars that we can take out of today's spending. And yes, we are going to deliver to the president a spending bill on time so that before March 10th, he has his money for the rest of the year. And then we're going to work very hard on having a bipartisan budget that respects the president's initiatives and respects the reality of how much money the American people are willing to be taxed for our runaway government spending.
All right, Congressman Darrell Issa, I wish we had more time. Good to see you. That's right. We have known each other for 12 years. I interviewed you first when you ran for Congress, and I was a reporter for Roll Call. Good to see you again, and thanks so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Nice to remember.